Shalom from Jerusalem. Right behind me are the walls of the old city. Again, shalom from Jerusalem. Good evening. The walls of the old city of Jerusalem are right behind me, and I am so thrilled and excited to be able to report about some very, very exciting news. If you happen to watch the Trump-Netanyahu press conference just about an hour ago, you probably saw some historical thing that took place in Washington this morning. And so I would like to begin with a little bit of an explanation of what went on there and what is the background to the things that you've heard. First of all, I will begin with the fact that about a year and a half ago, the Israeli Prime Minister had to fly all the way to Moscow in order to meet with Vladimir Putin, and that was right when the Russians literally invaded into Syria and basically caused the whole world to accept the fact that they are there. Israel had no other choice but to start collaborating with the Russians. We got a cold shoulder from Washington, from Obama's administration. There was absolutely no chemistry between Obama and Netanyahu. In fact, Netanyahu found in Putin a much more easier partner to deal with, and than with Obama himself. Now, things have changed dramatically. As you know, about 4 weeks ago, President Trump got into the White House. I know he's got a lot done, and he's doing a lot, but today was a very historical day. And today marked probably the beginning of the re-separation between Israel and Russia. What we've seen today is probably the warmest welcome that an Israeli Prime Minister had ever received in Washington, D.C., probably over the last 12 years. And we must understand that today something major happened. Two things actually were a milestone in the meeting between Netanyahu and Trump. And I'm leaving right now Russia and Iran aside for a few minutes. The first thing that happened is that for the first time, the whole idea of two-state solution, the Palestinians and Jewish state, as the only option on the table had been removed. Literally, when President Trump was asked, "Are you for two-state solution?" he said, "Two-state, one state, whatever works best for the two parties." Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time an American president over the last probably, 40, 50 years is saying these words. You have to understand, it's nice to talk about two-state solution, but there is no such thing. Two-state solution is an idea that was presented already in 1947 and has been continuously rejected by the Palestinians themselves, by the Arabs themselves, basically for one reason: they refuse to acknowledge a Jewish state, something that is all the way until today. I mean, if you go to Palestinian leadership nowadays and ask them, do you recognize the state of Israel as a Jewish state and then the Palestinian state as an Arab state, they will tell you, we recognize the Palestinians as Arab, but Israel not as Jewish, but as mixed Jewish and Arab. In other words, what's yours is mine, what's mine is mine. And basically the world kept plugging their ears and blocking their ears and maybe even covering their eyes from seeing that it's not working. It was offered in 1947 and had been rejected, and that's how the War of Independence really started. It was offered also in 1967 after the 6 Days War, and it wasn't accepted. It was offered in the 80s, it was offered in the 90s, and even in the Oslo Accord, that was one of the most shameful chapters in Israel's history, it was still something that has not been really truly accepted by them. Up until today, their textbooks are teaching that there is no Israel, that Palestine is everything, and not just the West Bank. So basically, for the first time, an American president is not saying this is it, that's the only option. He's basically looking at the whole situation from a completely different perspective. And then when the reporters moved to Prime Minister Netanyahu, he sort of like spilled beans by saying that we're going to discuss a regional peace with more than one of our newfound Arab allies, and maybe that somehow will push the local peace process with the Palestinians. You know, for many, many years, I've been saying that there cannot be biblically a Palestinian state. I mean, you read through the Bible and you can't find two states in the same land. You can't find an Arab state and a Jewish state. What you can see is that Jerusalem will be divided as a result of a terrible war. You can see that in the past the land was indeed divided by the enemies of Israel, but the division of the land as a result of peace was not there, or is not there in the scriptures. It was only a result of war. And this is exactly what the prophet Joel said that God is going to judge those nations for. For what? For dividing the land and hurting the people of Israel. So, biblically, I couldn't see the existence of two states, a Palestinian and a Jewish state. If anything, God said in the book of Ezekiel that he's going to bring back the Jews to their land, and he will never pull them out of their land again, in the book of Amos chapter 9. So the Jewish people's return back to their land is biblical. A two-state solution is absolutely not biblical. But I want to take us right now to Ezekiel's 38th chapter, which is the one that we're all really anticipating to take place. You must remember that in that portion, the only enemies that are going to come and physically, militarily attack Israel are Turkey and Iran, Libya, Sudan, and of course Russia. But isn't that interesting? We don't see Saudi Arabia, we don't see the Emirates, we don't see the Gulf states. I mean, we don't see the moderate Sunni countries in that region. And it's interesting because you probably don't know that, but they've been having relations with Israel for the longest time. They just don't want to come out of the closet. They're waiting for the Israeli-Palestinian peace to somehow be settled in order to say, yeah, now we want to enjoy the fruit of the peace with Israel. What Trump and Netanyahu at this moment are speaking of is sort of igniting a regional peace with more than just the Palestinians. We're talking about, Saudi and the Gulf states. And why is it so important? Because if you really think about it, none of those moderate Sunni countries is actually mentioned in Ezekiel as some that are going to attack Israel. And if anything, they actually criticize the war against Israel, just like America and Europe will criticize it. Which means America and Europe, we can understand why obviously they will not come against Israel. But to see that Saudi Arabia, to see that the other moderate countries, and I'm not talking even about Egypt and Jordan that already have peace with Israel. What excites me the most is the fact that for the first time we are seeing a deal that is not focusing on the Israelis and Palestinians only, which if everybody understands, if it will be focused on it, it will never move an inch forward. What they are now cooking in the Oval Office right now is something far bigger, and this is remarkable. Now, I started by saying that originally We talked about how Israel got closer and closer to Vladimir Putin in light of the cold shoulder we got from President Obama. But when you saw right now the amazing welcome that President Trump gave to the Netanyahu, and the amazing mutual compliments that these people were giving to each other, you realize that Putin is watching this whole thing. And it's not a coincidence that now we see a growing tension between America and Russia. Now, of course, General Flynn and the whole thing of him resigning from being the national security advisor, you have to understand, this is of course a leak from the intelligence communities of America right now, most likely some Democrats that are so frustrated with Trump being president. But pay attention to this. We're talking about a major growing tension between America and Russia that has been somehow verbally expressed with Trump's yesterday's call for Russia to evacuate the Crimean Peninsula and to clear it and to give it back to the Ukraine. You know, even Obama didn't say that clearly. And it's interesting that it's not only that, we're talking about also a Russian warship that was really close to the territorial waters of America, and it was about that area to obviously be able to detect all messages between the American intelligence communities. A Russian cruise missile has been stationed in a place where America cannot allow that to happen. We also know that in other places Russian aircrafts were flying very close to American destroyers. Guys, the situation is very, very clear right now. Trump has to choose between Russia and Europe. The Europeans are so afraid that Putin is out of control, and they're begging for Trump to take a stand, and a bold stand, to somehow strengthen NATO and not stand behind Putin. And what we see here is that the Russians are flexing their muscles, and as Israel is getting closer and closer to America, the first thing that is going to happen is that the Russians are going to position themselves in that alliance with Israel's enemies. It's very interesting that not only that the tension between America and Russia is indeed growing, but the Iranians are so much frustrated with Trump that they start sending their proxies to either talk, threaten, or actually hurt American interests in different places. For example, yesterday, a series of suicide bombings in Baghdad were there as an uprising of Shiites against the pro-American Iraqi government. Again, the Iranians are not attacking directly, but they are attacking indirectly. The Yemenite Houthis that are funded by Iran went live, and one of their generals said, "We are ready to attack any American warship that will enter the territorial waters of Yemen." We can clearly see how the Iranians are defying the sanctions and defying all the restrictions that were there in the United Nations Security Council, and basically the Iranians are playing with fire. Trump is not, you know, obviously forgiving as Obama was, and what we see is that the moderate Gulf states and Saudi Arabia are now literally moving towards the side of Europe and America, and all that Russia is being left with is Iran, and shortly it will be Turkey. Turkey on a completely different ground. Turkey is because of the European refusal to allow Turkey to become a member. And so, guys, what we see now is the honeymoon between Netanyahu and Putin is coming to an end. The honeymoon between Netanyahu and Trump had just begun. this two-state solution is almost taken off the table. A regional peace deal is now being on the table, and Ezekiel could have not been clearer and closer than it is right now. I am so excited because look, I'm in Jerusalem. These are the walls of the old city of Jerusalem. This city, as you look at, is going to somehow pay the price for the regional peace. Why? If you notice, and you can watch the news conference, when Trump was asked about moving the embassy to Jerusalem, he cautiously said, we want to, we wish we could, but we are carefully examining that one. These are actually words of someone who already decided that it is not the time to do that. You and I know that it's going to be almost impossible to come to Muslim countries and to ask for a sort of a regional peace with them when you're taking the third holiest city in the world for them and making a clear declaration that it's not theirs, it's the Jewish people's. So what Trump and Netanyahu are most likely going to do is sacrificing this Jerusalem's embassy move for the sake of a regional peace with the moderate Muslim countries in the region. You must understand that both the moderate countries next to us, like Egypt and Jordan, and the far away from like Saudi and the Gulf states, they have a problem with radical Islam themselves. And the last thing they need right now is riots and an uprising as a result of fanatic religious feelings because of Jerusalem. So this city behind me is going to pay the price right now and become sort of the sacrifice for the sake of a regional peace that is being cooked right now. I'm super excited because that even by itself is a prophecy fulfilled. And Zechariah is saying that, nobody wants to touch Jerusalem. Anyone who touches Jerusalem is going to be scratched in Zechariah chapter 12. And Jerusalem is a heavy, burdensome stone. So I'm not banking on the move of the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I'm more banking on moving along with on a peace deal. And one of the things that will drive the moderate countries to have peace with Israel is actually the rise of radical Islam. And they understand that they have to attack it and tackle it together. I don't believe in any peace in the Middle East until the Prince of Peace will come. But we must understand Ezekiel's prophecy is giving us a clear description of Israel being safe, prosperous, and living in peace. In other words, that regional peace that we're talking about can play, perfectly into the situation when Russia, Iran, Turkey, Sudan, and Libya are attacking us. And in fact, what might ignite this whole thing is the fact that on that level, Israel is actually doing very, very well. So I want to encourage all of you. We are living in incredible times, and I know that throughout the last couple of years of Obama's administration, things looked bad between America and Israel, and things looked a little bit uncertain as far as how come Israel is getting so close to Russia when we know that Russia is going to attack Israel. Well, right now we see how things are unfolding. We see that the honeymoon between Netanyahu and Putin was for a reason and for a season, and it's coming to an end as Trump is now in the White House, and we could have not asked for anyone better and friendlier than Trump in the White House when it comes to Israel. Now, I want you to understand that beside that, there are amazing developments I can't really talk about all of them, but amazing development within Syria as well that are even advancing the complete destruction and the fall of Assad's regime. And hopefully, if it will be okay, I'll be able to share with you later on, maybe next week, or, about those things. So when we see how the chaos in Syria is continuing, and when we see how Russia is getting further and further away from Israel and closer to Iran as a result of even the tension between them and the United States. And when you see how Europe is super afraid of the Russian president and is begging Trump to somehow make clear declarations regarding the Ukraine and regarding NATO, we must understand that we are closer than ever. I'm leading a tour right now. I'm not leading a bus, one of 8 different buses of 400 people that came with Governor Mike Huckabee, his wife Janet, and their son David, and lots of other people. And everybody's having a lot of great time. I mean, we had some rain, unfortunately, but it did not affect the tour. We've seen everything. But I want you to know that we all feel the same excitement here. We all see and feel that it is an historical time, definitely. I can tell you that I'm super excited because I can see how fast we move on that track of Bible prophecy being fulfilled. Israel is back in the land. Israel is prosperous more than ever before. Israel is now dealing with the friendliest regime in the White House. And Israel has 2 things. Israel has friendly ear in most of the Arab world, and Israel has Iran, Israel had Turkey and Russia almost on its border in Syria. Damascus about to fall apart. Everything is not falling apart. Everything is falling in the right place. So I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you, A, that the Bible is reliable, authentic, and the Bible is accurate. You know, everything the Bible says, sometimes, at times, doesn't make sense because we don't see the whole picture. But in hindsight, as we take a step backwards and we see the whole picture, Ezekiel is more accurate than today's newspaper. But I also want to encourage you guys that in the same manner God fulfilled things in the past and is fulfilling things right now, present time. He will fulfill all of the promises that He has for us, even for the near future. And this is where I want to encourage you all. Continue to ask the Spirit and the bride, to ask for Him to come. Some people told me, wrote and said, Amir, if the rapture is imminent, how come you are saying that He will come only if you tell Him to come? No, that's not what I said. God takes delight in us asking Him to come. It's not that He won't come unless we ask Him to come. He won't come unless we ask Him to come because we're not ready yet. We need to be ready, and when we are ready, we ask Him to come, and He will come. God is not slacking as some count slackness, but He's long-suffering, and He's not willing that any will perish. This is the only reason why we're still here. And it seems to me that the church doesn't get it. We have to do our part and our duty for the time that is left to be watchmen on the wall, to get ready as the bride, and indeed the Spirit and the bride say, come. I also feel very, very much on my heart, and I said that in the last one, the last broadcast, and I want to say it again, and probably I'm going to say it all the time. The biggest attack that I see right now is on the family. Family cells, on our marriages, on our kids, on our family, on our, our walk with the Lord as a family. And I want to tell you something, guys. It's time for us to declare what Joshua declared in its 24th chapter. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. So when you write us where you're from, maybe tell us how you found us, but also, if possible, declare that. Declare that with your mouth, write it, and be persistent with it. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. I also want to tell you that the enemy is going wild and the enemy is going crazy about what is going on right now, and we must be watchful. I believe that, as the prophet Ezekiel said, a watchman has to warn the people. You cannot see all of this and just stay quiet. You cannot see all of this amazing development in the world and how all the things that are unfolding right before our very eyes and just stay apathetic or just not do anything. As Ezekiel said, when the watchman is seeing the coming danger or the whatever is coming, his job is to warn the people. Now, if the people don't listen, that's their fault. But if he is not warning them and they are dead, well, of course it's their fault that they are not ready, but their blood is also on the watchman's hands. And it's not about blood, and it's not about the hands of us. It's about our duty to be the watchman. The gospel, I always say, it's like gospel. We need to give that pill to the dying world so they can come to life back, just as we became alive, coming from our deadly sins. And it's not our responsibility to take it for them. We can give it to them. Whether they take it or not, it's their responsibility. But our responsibility is to give them the gospel and pray that they'll take it. I want to thank you so much for your generosity. We've been calling out for some people, if they wish to donate for the young adults whom we want to bring to Israel, to invest in them, to give them the word so they can go back to their colleges and universities and make a difference. And I can tell you that by God's grace, we have enough to send 10 people, 2 of them from Japan, 2 from the Philippines, 2 from Europe, and also 2 from the United States and 2 from South America. That's my vision. My vision is to be able to bring about people from all over the world and to give them an Israel experience, to cause them to behold Israel, and of course to get them back home on fire. We want to do more of those. We want to do next year even a bigger one, and we really, we could value and cherish your prayers and help and support. And if you want to give towards that, just write us to scholarship fund at beholdisrael.org. Another exciting thing is 100 more downloads of the app and we reach 100,000. I'm going to give to the person who is the 100,000 app download a very, very nice gift. Just because I think it's nice and it's a very nice number, but also because I want to appreciate that. You guys, it's not going to be for long until even Facebook might even take us off. And as I said before, Behold Israel is a free app. And for me, this would be a way to communicate with all of you if we are off the air on Facebook or YouTube. Now, I want also to encourage you to go on YouTube and subscribe on Behold Israel, because we're going to be releasing many more things in the near future, and that's going to be a way for you to know when we release and what we release, and of course to be able to watch it. Guys, we're super excited to tell you that again, people are writing to us from so many different countries, Muslim countries, Hindu countries, of course Christian places, all over the world, from over 200 countries. And it's all because I believe God is doing an amazing thing. Now, I'm not talking about numbers. I'm talking about the spread of the people. God is leaving remnants in each and every one of the countries. of people who did not bow down to the Baal, as I said, but also for people who are aware and of the times and the seasons, and they are being commissioned to be watchmen on the wall. And I do believe with all of my heart that as the ministry is growing, we're going to affect many, many more people all around the world. And again, it's not about any fame, and it's not about any name. It's about the work of God. It's about the harvest field that is ready, and it's about the fact that people must understand the times and the seasons in which we live. And I want to encourage you guys to continue to pray for us, for me as I travel, for my family back home, but also for how you may be able to take part in this ministry. I think that, you know, we couldn't do anything without you, but I want you to become more active also in not only prayer, but maybe doing something on behalf of Behold Israel in your own countries. We want to tell you that all of our tours for 2017 are sold out, and we're going to release dates for 2018 with new and exciting tours, not only Israel tours, but also an Israel for second timers with an extension to Greece, to Athens and Corinth and all of that. But we are also going to plan more Bible prophecy study tours where I will be taking you around the country, and we're going to study Bible prophecy in so many different places. I also want to incorporate Petra, and so I can teach her also about the book of Revelation, how the enemy is going to chase the Jewish people all the way to that desert over there in Petra, and how God is going to redeem them eventually when Christ is coming back with us to this world. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We live in exciting times. There's much more that I wanted to share with you, but this is not the right time. I don't think I can say much about it at this moment, and that's regarding Syria. But I do want you to understand this is a historical day. We've seen amazing things happening in the White House. They are happening right now between the Israeli Prime Minister and the American President. Keep praying, keep interceding, keep being watchmen on the wall. The Spirit of the bride say, come. And so tell him to come. And if you're not telling him to come, it's probably because you're not ready. This is the right time to get ready. This is the right time to get right with the Lord, to restore relationships, to put aside the life that is not really giving any honor and glory to the Lord. This is the right time to be found doing our Father's business. So thank you so much for tuning in and staying with us. Again, download the app. If you're the 100,000 person, I'm going to send you a very, very nice gift. Get register for our newsletter. Go to beholdisrael.org and you can get it. And of course, subscribe to our website. And if you want to see beautiful pictures that I'm taking every day right now along the tour, go to Instagram, Behold Israel, one word, and like it and follow us. I'm having a great time with my group, and we're taking wonderful shots from our tour. We were at Oscar Schindler's grave. We paid tribute to him, and we were in different parts of the old city. We had an evening service at the Garden Tomb just a few hours ago. And just so you know, the tomb is empty. Thank you. Shalom. God bless you. I love you from the city of Jerusalem. God bless you all. Bye-bye.